Park my car, valet! Ayla shouted and threw me the keys to her Bentley. I dropped them. Pick them up, she screamed. At that moment, a tow truck pulled up. The driver asked, Boss, which cars are we taking today? I pointed at the Bentley and said, Start with that one. It's parked in my spot. My name is Rellin, and I'm a mechanic who owns a small auto repair shop in the industrial district. My wife Ayla is a corporate lawyer climbing the social ladder faster than I can change oil filters. We live in a luxury high-rise that she insisted we move into last year, even though the mortgage payments make my wallet cry every month. She arrived late that Tuesday evening, blocked the reserved space, tossed me the Bentley keys, and called me valet in front of the building staff. The concierge, a young guy named Danny, tried not to smirk. The doorman, Marcus, suddenly found his shoes fascinating. When the keys hit the pavement, she ordered me to pick them up like I was some kind of servant. I checked the parking sign and made one call. Rellin here. I need my assigned space cleared immediately. Unauthorized vehicle blocking spot 4B. Ayla's face went from smug to confused in about 3 seconds. What are you doing? I confirmed my name on the property lease, the assigned space number, and the enforcement clause. I forwarded the plate number, took time-stamped photos, and authorized removal through the contracted towing service. You wouldn't dare, she hissed, stepping closer. Her designer heels clicked against the concrete like a countdown timer. She threatened to call security and claimed ownership. I showed the spot assignment on my phone and sent the digital permit to the dispatcher already en route. The building's parking regulations were crystal clear. Unauthorized vehicles would be towed at owner's expense. Stop this nonsense right now. Cancel whatever you just did. The driver rolled in, verified the order, and asked which vehicles were in violation. She tried to block the tow and demanded I cancel it. I declined and signed the release form with a flourish that would have made John Hancock proud. The Bentley was lifted, tagged, and removed for private impound. The keys stayed on the ground, the space stayed empty, and her leverage disappeared with the car. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, Ayla said, her voice shaking with rage. No, I replied, watching the taillights of the tow truck disappear around the corner. The biggest mistake was when you forgot we're supposed to be married, not employer and employee. Danny, the concierge, was openly grinning now. Marcus had pulled out his phone and was probably texting his wife about the drama. Mrs. Henderson from 12C had appeared on her balcony like a vulture sensing fresh gossip. Ayla stormed toward the elevator, leaving the Bentley keys on the ground like discarded trash. I picked them up and slipped them into my pocket. Something told me I might need them later. That night, she didn't come home until after midnight. I heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floor, heard her slam the bedroom door. We'd been sleeping in separate rooms for 3 months now, ever since she decided my snoring was incompatible with her sleep schedule. I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, thinking about how we got here. 5 years ago, Ayla was a public defender making $30,000 a year and driving a Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. She thought my grease-stained hands were charming then. She used to bring me coffee at the shop and kiss me hello without worrying about her lipstick. Now she makes 6 figures at a corporate firm, drives a car worth more than my annual revenue, and treats me like an embarrassment at social functions. Her friends call me the mechanic, like it's a communicable disease. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most were from Ayla, ranging from angry demands to retrieve her car to threats about what would happen if I didn't fix this immediately. A few were from her best friend Mira, calling me everything except a gentleman. But the one that caught my attention was from an unknown number. Your wife has been spending a lot of time at Sloane Maddox's dealership lately. Thought you should know. A concerned neighbor, Sloane Maddox. I knew that name. He owned the luxury car dealership where Ayla had bought the Bentley. Tall guy, silver hair, expensive suits, and the kind of smile that made you want to count your fingers after shaking hands with him. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, looking out at the city skyline. The morning sun reflected off glass towers filled with people like Ayla, ambitious, driven, hungry for more than what they had. Meanwhile, down in the industrial district, guys like me kept their cars running so they could chase those dreams. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ayla. "Get my car back now or you'll regret it." I typed back, "Impound lot opens at 8 a.m. You know where to find me if you need directions." She responded immediately. "We need to talk." "About what? Your parking etiquette?" "Don't be smart with me, Hayes. I'm serious." "So am I. Completely serious." The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before she finally sent, "I'll be at the shop at noon." I finished my coffee and headed to work. My shop, Rellin's Auto Repair, sits between a tire store and a diner that serves the best breakfast in the city. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. I built it from nothing after getting out of the army, one satisfied customer at a time. My best friend Nate was already there when I arrived, leaning against the service counter with his arms crossed. Nate coaches boxing at the gym down the street and has the build to prove it. He's also got a sixth sense for when I'm about to do something stupid. "Heard you had some excitement last night," he said. "News travels fast. Mrs. Henderson called my aunt at 6 this morning. Apparently, you're now the most interesting thing to happen in that building since the elevator got stuck with the mayor inside." I grabbed my coveralls from the hook and started changing. Ayla had it coming. "Maybe, but you know she's not going to let this slide, right? That woman holds grudges like a museum holds artifacts." Before I could respond, the bay door rattled open and a familiar black Porsche pulled in. Sloane Maddox stepped out, looking like he'd walked off the cover of a men's fashion magazine. His suit probably cost more than most people's rent. "Hayes Rellin?" His voice had that smooth quality that car salesmen perfect over years of practice. "That's me. You need some work done on the Porsche?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Actually, I'm here about your wife's situation. Ayla asked me to help resolve this misunderstanding." Nate shifted slightly, moving into a position where he could intervene if things went sideways. I appreciated the backup, but something told me Sloane wasn't here for a physical confrontation. "No misunderstanding," I said. "She parked illegally. Car got towed. Pretty straightforward." "Come now, Hayes. We're all adults here. Ayla made a simple mistake. Surely we can work something out." The way he said her name, familiar, intimate, confirmed what the text message had suggested. This wasn't just about a towed car. "Tell you what, Sloane. You want to help? Pay the impound fees. $200 plus storage costs. Cash only." His smile faltered slightly. "That seems unnecessary. I was thinking more along the lines of a gentleman's agreement. I'm just a mechanic. Don't know much about being a gentleman, but I know plenty about contracts, payments, and consequences." We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Sloane nodded and pulled out his wallet. He counted out $300 bills and placed them on the counter. "For the inconvenience," he said. I picked up the money and handed it to Nate. "Put this toward the coffee fund." Sloane's jaw tightened. "I thought we had a deal." "We do. You just paid for the privilege of learning that my wife's problems aren't my problems anymore. Enjoy your day, Mr. Maddox." After he left, Nate whistled low. "That was either the smartest thing you've ever done or the dumbest. Time will tell." But I already knew which one it was. Ayla arrived at the shop precisely at noon, driving a silver Mercedes that I didn't recognize. She'd changed from her usual power suit into jeans and a sweater, trying to look casual. It didn't work. Ayla couldn't do casual any more than a shark could do vegetarian. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway like she was afraid the grease might contaminate her designer clothes. "Office is upstairs." My office was a small room above the shop floor with a desk, 2 chairs, and a window that overlooked the industrial district. Ayla sat down carefully, as if the furniture might collapse under her. "Hayes, about last night." You mean when you treated me like hired help in front of half the building? She sighed. I was stressed. Court was brutal yesterday, and I had that client dinner afterward. I didn't mean to take it out on you. Whose Mercedes? The question caught her off guard. What? The silver Mercedes you drove here. It's not ours. I borrowed it from a friend. Would that friend be Sloane Maddox? Her face went pale. For a lawyer, she was terrible at hiding her reactions when it mattered. How do you know about Sloane? He stopped by this morning, offered to pay your impound fees. Real generous of him. Ayla stood up and walked to the window. It's not what you think. What do I think, Ayla? That there's something going on between us. Is there? The pause lasted about 3 seconds too long. No. He's a client. I've been handling some legal work for the dealership. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a small digital recorder. Funny thing about this office, the acoustics are terrible. Sometimes conversations from the coffee shop next door come through the walls. Amazing what people say when they think nobody's listening. Her reflection in the window went rigid. Yesterday morning, around 10:30, I heard 2 women talking about their weekend plans. One of them mentioned a romantic getaway to the lake house. Said her husband was too busy with his little garage to notice she was gone. I pressed play on the recorder. Ayla's voice came through clearly. Hayes is so wrapped up in that shop, he wouldn't notice if I disappeared for a week. Sloane wants to take me to his place by the lake this weekend. The second voice belonged to Mira. Are you sure about this? If Hayes finds out, Hayes won't find out. He's too busy playing with his tools to pay attention to anything else. I stopped the recording. Ayla had turned around and was staring at me with a mixture of anger and fear. You recorded me? I recorded whoever was having a conversation loud enough to disturb my work. Imagine my surprise when I realized it was my wife planning a weekend with another man. Hayes, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That while I've been working 60-hour weeks to pay for your lifestyle, you've been playing house with a car dealer? She sat back down, her hands shaking slightly. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You want out of this marriage? Fine. But don't insult my intelligence by pretending this is about legal work. I never meant for it to happen. Sloane and I started working together on a contract dispute. We spent a lot of time together, and things just developed. How long? What? How long have you been having an affair? Another pause. 3 months. 3 months. The same amount of time we'd been sleeping in separate bedrooms. The same amount of time she'd been working late, taking weekend business trips and treating me like an inconvenience. Does Valentina know? Our 17-year-old daughter was away at boarding school, but she came home for holidays and breaks. Of course not. This has nothing to do with her. Everything we do has to do with her. She's our daughter. She's practically an adult. She'll understand when we explain. When we explain that Mommy decided Daddy wasn't good enough anymore? Ayla's eyes flashed with anger. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about the mortgage payments I've been making on this apartment you insisted we needed. Let's talk about the credit card bills for clothes and dinners and spa treatments. Let's talk about me working weekends to pay for your Bentley while you're off with another man. I contribute to this household. You contribute to your image. There's a difference. She stood up again, pacing the small office like a caged animal. I'm not happy, Hayes. I haven't been happy for a long time. So you decided to make me unhappy too? I tried to talk to you. Remember last year when I suggested we go to counseling? You said we didn't need some stranger telling us how to be married. I did remember that conversation. I also remembered being exhausted from working double shifts to pay for her law school loans. So instead of counseling, you chose cheating. I chose to find someone who makes me feel valued. And I don't? When's the last time we went out to dinner? When's the last time you bought me flowers or planned a surprise? When's the last time you looked at me like I was more than just a roommate who shares expenses? The questions hit harder than I wanted to admit. Between work and bills and the constant stress of keeping up with her expectations, romance had taken a back seat. So this is my fault? It's nobody's fault. We grew apart. It happens. No, Ayla. Growing apart is when you stop talking about your day or forget to say good morning. Having an affair is a choice. You chose Sloane over working on our marriage. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number again. Check your wife's Instagram, posted 20 minutes ago. I pulled up Ayla's social media account. Her latest post was a photo of herself and Sloane at an expensive restaurant downtown. The caption read, "Business dinner with an amazing colleague. Sometimes work doesn't feel like work." I turned the phone toward her. Business dinner? Her face went white. I forgot I posted that. You forgot? Or you didn't think I'd see it? Hayes, get out. What? Get out of my office, get out of my shop, go back to your colleague and figure out how you want to handle this divorce. Divorce? Hayes, we can work through this. No, we can't. You made your choice 3 months ago. I'm just now catching up. She gathered her purse and headed for the door. You're making a mistake. We can fix this. The only mistake I made was trusting you. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, staring at the recording device. Nate came up eventually with 2 cups of coffee and a concerned expression. Rough conversation? She's been cheating for 3 months. I'm sorry, man. You know what the crazy part is? I'm not even surprised. Disappointed, angry, hurt, but not surprised. What are you going to do? I looked out the window at the city skyline where Ayla spent her days climbing the corporate ladder. I'm going to remind her that actions have consequences. That sounds ominous. Does it? I was thinking it sounded educational. Nate sat down across from me. Hayes, whatever you're planning, think it through. Don't do something you'll regret. The only thing I regret is not paying attention sooner. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Ayla. I'm sorry. Can we please talk about this like adults? I typed back, adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back. But sure, let's be adults. Have your lawyer call my lawyer. You don't have a lawyer. I will by tomorrow. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before she finally responded. Please don't make this ugly. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, You already made it ugly. I'm just deciding how ugly it gets. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I closed the shop for a personal day. Nate thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. But first, I had some investigating to do. I started at the coffee shop where I'd overheard Ayla's conversation. The owner, Mrs. Chen, had been running the place for 15 years and knew everything that happened in the neighborhood. Hayes, you don't usually come in on weekdays. Taking a day off. Mrs. Chen, you know that table by the window, the one closest to my office? Sure. Popular spot for business meetings. Why? Anyone interesting been using it lately? She thought for a moment. Your wife was there yesterday with her friend, the tall one with the expensive handbags. Mira. That's her. They were talking pretty intensely about something. Seemed upset. Upset how? Well, your wife kept looking toward your shop like she was worried about something, and her friend was doing a lot of hand gestures. You know how some people talk with their hands when they're giving advice? I thanked Mrs. Chen and walked to the parking lot behind the coffee shop. From there, I had a clear view of my office window. If Ayla and Mira had been sitting at that table, they would have been able to see if I was upstairs. My phone rang. Valentina. Dad? Mom called me last night. She sounded weird. Weird how, sweetheart? Like she'd been crying. She said you two were having some problems and that I might need to come home this weekend. I closed my eyes. Valentina was supposed to be focusing on her senior year, not dealing with her parents' marriage falling apart. We're working through some things, Val. Nothing for you to worry about. Are you getting divorced? The question hung in the air like a challenge. I could lie, tell her everything was fine, protect her from the truth a little longer. But Valentina was smart. She'd figure it out soon enough. I don't know yet. Maybe. Is it because of that guy Mom's been talking about? The one with the car dealership? My grip tightened on the phone. What has she told you about him? Not much. Just that she's been working with him on some big case. But she mentions him a lot, like every time we talk. When did this start? I don't know. A few months ago? Dad, is Mom having an affair? I sat down on the hood of my truck. 17 years old, and she was asking questions that most adults couldn't handle. What makes you think that? I'm not stupid, Dad. She's been different lately. Happier when she talks about work, sadder when she talks about home. And she keeps asking me weird questions about whether I'd be okay if things changed. What kind of changes? Like if she moved somewhere else. Or if I wanted to spend more time with her during breaks instead of hanging around the shop with you. The manipulation was already starting. Ayla was testing the waters, seeing if she could turn Valentina against me before the divorce proceedings began. Val, listen to me carefully. Whatever happens between your mother and me, it has nothing to do with you. You're not choosing sides, and you're not responsible for fixing our problems. But what if she makes me choose? Then you choose what's best for you, and no matter what you choose, I'll always be your dad. After we hung up, I sat in that parking lot for another 20 minutes, watching people go about their normal lives. A delivery truck pulled up to the diner. A customer walked into the tire store. Mrs. Chen swept the sidewalk in front of her coffee shop. Normal life. I wasn't sure I remembered what that felt like anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from the unknown number. Meet me at Rosie's Diner. Booth in the back. 1 hour. I stared at the message. Someone had been feeding me information about Ayla's affair, and now they wanted to meet face to face. It could be a trap. It could be someone trying to make the situation worse. Or it could be someone with answers. Rosie's Diner was a 10-minute walk from my shop. I'd been eating there for years, but I'd never paid much attention to the other customers. When I walked in, the lunch crowd was starting to thin out. The back booth was occupied by a woman in her 40s, with short brown hair and tired eyes. She was wearing scrubs, like she worked at a hospital or medical office. Hayes Rellin? I slid into the booth across from her. You're the one who's been texting me. My name is Rebecca. I'm a nurse at the medical center downtown. Okay. What does that have to do with my wife? Rebecca stirred her coffee nervously. My husband works at Sloane Maddox's dealership. Service manager. He's been there 8 years. And? Sloane has a reputation. He goes after married women. Wealthy ones usually. Lawyers, doctors, executives. He likes the challenge. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How many? My husband says at least 5 in the past 2 years. Always the same pattern. He starts with business, moves to personal attention, then gradually isolates them from their husbands. Why are you telling me this? Rebecca looked out the window. Because one of those women was my sister. She left her husband last year after a 6-month affair with Sloane, took half of everything in the divorce, then found out she wasn't the only one. What happened to her? Sloane dumped her as soon as the divorce was final, moved on to the next target. My sister lost her marriage, her home, and her self-respect for a man who never cared about her. I processed this information slowly. So Ayla isn't special. She's just the current project. I'm sorry. I know this is hard to hear. Actually, it's helpful. Do you have any proof of this pattern? Rebecca reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. Photos, dates, license plate numbers. My husband started documenting things after what happened to my sister. He was hoping to find a way to stop Sloane, but he needs his job. I opened the envelope. Inside were dozens of photos taken in the dealership parking lot and at various restaurants around the city. Sloane with different women, all of them wearing wedding rings, all of them looking at him with the same infatuated expression I'd seen on Ayla's face. This is a lot of evidence. There's more. Sloane keeps trophies. What kind of trophies? Photos, personal items, things the women give him during the affairs. My husband has seen them in Sloane's office. I studied the photos more carefully. In several of them, Sloane was wearing different watches, necklaces, and rings that clearly didn't belong to him. Rebecca, would your husband be willing to help me get into that office? She shook her head. He can't risk his job, but he did mention that Sloane keeps his office unlocked during business hours. He's arrogant enough to think nobody would dare go through his things. When's the best time? Sloane leaves for lunch every day at 12:30. Takes exactly 1 hour. The showroom staff is usually busy with customers. I checked my watch. It was 11:45. One more question. Do you know anything about Mira Castellanos? She's Ayla's best friend. Rebecca's expression darkened. Tall woman, expensive clothes, drives a white BMW? That's her. She's been to the dealership several times. Usually meets with Sloane privately. My husband thinks she might be recruiting women for him. The pieces were starting to fall into place. Mira wasn't just Ayla's friend, she was Sloane's accomplice. She'd been encouraging the affair, probably feeding Ayla lies about me, setting up meetings between them. Rebecca, I can't thank you enough for this. Just promise me you'll be careful. Sloane has connections in this city, powerful ones. I gathered the photos and headed for the door. Don't worry about me. Worry about Sloane. The dealership was a 15-minute drive from the diner. I parked across the street and watched through the showroom windows. At exactly 12:30, Sloane emerged wearing a different expensive suit and headed for his Porsche. I waited 5 minutes, then walked into the showroom like I belonged there. The sales staff was busy with customers, just as Rebecca had predicted. Sloane's office was in the back corner, behind a glass wall with his name etched in gold letters. The door was unlocked. His office was exactly what I'd expected. Leather furniture, expensive artwork, and a desk that probably cost more than most people's cars. But it was the credenza behind his desk that caught my attention. The top shelf was lined with framed photos of Sloane with various women at restaurants, hotels, and vacation spots. All of the women were wearing wedding rings. All of them looked happy and infatuated. The bottom shelf was more interesting. Small items in clear display cases, a gold bracelet, a pearl necklace, a men's wedding ring, a woman's watch. Trophies from his conquests. I used my phone to photograph everything, making sure to capture the details clearly. Then, I opened his desk drawers. The bottom drawer was locked, but the key was taped under the desktop. Inside were folders labeled with women's names. I found Ayla's folder and photographed the contents: hotel receipts, restaurant bills, copies of text messages, and a handwritten note that made my stomach turn. Hayes is completely oblivious. He actually thinks I'm working late. This is almost too easy. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and left the office. The entire operation took less than 10 minutes. As I walked back to my truck, my phone rang. Ayla. Hayes, we need to talk. There are things you don't understand. I understand more than you think. Meet me at the apartment tonight, 7 o'clock, please. Fine, 7 o'clock. I had 6 hours to prepare for the most important conversation of my marriage, and thanks to Rebecca, I now had everything I needed to make sure Ayla understood exactly how much trouble she was in. I arrived at the apartment at exactly 7 o'clock, carrying a manila envelope that contained copies of everything I'd discovered. Ayla was waiting in the living room, wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Thank you for coming, she said, gesturing toward the couch. Let's skip the pleasantries. You said there were things I didn't understand. Explain. She sat down across from me, her hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl about to confess to the principal. Sloane isn't what you think he is. What do I think he is? You think he's just some rich car dealer I'm having a fling with. But it's more complicated than that. I opened the envelope and pulled out the photos from his office. You mean because you're not his first victim? Her face went pale as she recognized the images. Where did you get these? Does it matter? The point is, you're not special, Ayla. You're just another married woman he's manipulating. She stood up and walked to the window. You don't understand. Sloane and I have a real connection. Look at these photos. I spread them across the coffee table. 5 different women in the past 2 years, all married, all wealthy, all convinced they had a real connection with him. Ayla turned around, her eyes flashing with anger. Those women were different. They were just looking for excitement. What Sloane and I have is deeper than that. I pulled out the note she'd written and placed it on top of the photos. Hayes is completely oblivious. He actually thinks I'm working late. This is almost too easy. She stared at the note like it might explode. How did you get into his office? Turns out Sloane has enemies. People who are tired of watching him destroy marriages for sport. You broke into his office? I walked into his unlocked office during business hours. There's a difference. Ayla sat back down, her composure cracking. Hayes, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Sloane has connections, important people who owe him favors. Are you threatening me? I'm trying to protect you. If he finds out you went through his things, he'll what? Have me arrested for trespassing? I'd love to see him explain to the police why he keeps trophies from his affairs in his office. I pulled out more photos, the items in the display cases, the folders with women's names, the hotel receipts. This is evidence of a pattern, Ayla. Sloane targets married women, manipulates them into affairs, then discards them when he gets bored. You're not his girlfriend. You're his hobby. She was quiet for a long moment, studying the evidence spread across our coffee table. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Even if that's true, it doesn't change how I feel about him. How do you feel about him? I love him. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd suspected the affair, confirmed it, even gathered evidence of Sloane's manipulation. But hearing her say she loved him made it real in a way that photographs and recordings couldn't. What about us? What about our marriage? Our marriage has been over for months, Hayes. We just haven't admitted it. I haven't admitted it. You've been planning your exit strategy since the affair started. She looked at me with something that might have been pity. You really don't see it, do you? How unhappy we've both been. I see a woman who decided her husband wasn't good enough anymore and found someone who could provide a more exciting lifestyle. It's not about money. It's exactly about money and status and the kind of life you think you deserve. I gathered the photos and put them back in the envelope. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move out of this apartment. You're going to file for divorce, and you're going to leave Valentina out of this mess. You can't dictate terms to me. I'm not dictating. I'm offering you the easy way out, because the alternative is me taking this evidence to your law firm, to Sloane's business partners, and to every social media platform in the city. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. Try me. Hayes, be reasonable. We can work out a fair settlement without destroying each other. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I stood up and walked to the window. Fair would have been you talking to me before you started planning your new life. Fair would have been marriage counseling instead of hotel rooms. Fair would have been treating me like a husband instead of an obstacle. I know I handled this badly. You handled it like a coward. The apartment fell silent, except for the hum of traffic 20 floors below. When Ayla spoke again, her voice had changed. The apologetic tone was gone, replaced by the cold professionalism she used in court. What do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to me for 3 months. You chose to involve our daughter in your manipulation. Now you get to live with those choices. And what about your choices? What about the fact that you've been emotionally absent from this marriage for years? I've been working to support the lifestyle you demanded. I never demanded anything. I just wanted a partner who was present in our relationship. So you found one in Sloane? Yes. I found someone who pays attention to me, someone who makes me feel valued and appreciated. I turned back to face her. And what happens when he gets bored? When you become another photo in his trophy collection? That won't happen. It's already happening. Do you know where he was last Tuesday night while you were texting me about working late? Her confident expression faltered slightly. He was at a business dinner. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken from Sloane's folder. It was a receipt from an expensive restaurant dated last Tuesday. The receipt showed charges for 2 people, but the credit card name wasn't Sloane's. He was at dinner with someone named Jennifer Morrison. Ring any bells? Ayla stared at the receipt. That could be anyone, a client, a business partner. Jennifer Morrison is a divorce attorney, recently separated from her husband. She drives a red Tesla that's been spotted at Sloane's dealership 6 times in the past 2 weeks. The color drained from Ayla's face. You're lying. I'm done lying. That's your specialty. I headed for the door, then turned back. You have until Friday to move your things out. After that, I'm changing the locks. Hayes, wait. What? What about Valentina? What are we going to tell her? We're going to tell her the truth. That her mother chose another man over her family. That's not fair to her. Neither is divorce. But you made that choice for all of us. I left the apartment and took the elevator down to the parking garage. As I walked to my truck, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. The pretending was over. The lies were exposed. The marriage was finished. But I wasn't finished with Sloane Maddox. The next morning, I opened the shop early and called Rebecca. She answered on the second ring. Hayes, is everything okay? I need to ask your husband a favor. Nothing that would put his job at risk. What kind of favor? I need to know Sloane's schedule for the next week, specifically when he'll be out of town or away from the dealership for extended periods. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Can I ask why? I'm going to make sure every woman in this city knows exactly what kind of man they're dealing with. Hold on, let me call him. 5 minutes later, she called back with the information I needed. Sloane was leaving town Friday morning for a weekend car auction in Chicago. He wouldn't be back until Monday afternoon. That gave me 3 days to execute my plan. I spent Thursday creating social media accounts on every platform I could think of. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. Each account used a variation of the name Truth About Sloane and featured the same profile photo, a silhouette with the words, Exposing Predators. Then I started posting. The first post was a collage of photos from Sloane's office, showing him with different married women over the past 2 years. The caption read, Ladies of the City, meet Sloane Maddox, owner of Maddox Luxury Cars. He specializes in more than just selling vehicles. He targets married women, convinces them to leave their husbands, then moves on to the next victim. Swipe to see his pattern. The second post featured the trophy collection from his office. These items belong to the women Sloane Maddox has manipulated and discarded. Each piece represents a destroyed marriage, a broken family, a woman who thought she was special. Don't be his next trophy. The third post was the most damaging. I'd created a timeline showing the overlap between his various affairs, proving that he was often involved with multiple women simultaneously. Think you're the only one? Think again. By Friday morning, the posts had been shared hundreds of times. Women were commenting with their own stories about Sloane. Some had been approached by him but declined. Others had friends who'd been involved with him. A few admitted they'd been victims themselves. But the real explosion came when Jennifer Morrison, the divorce attorney, commented on the timeline post. This man is a predator. He approached me while I was going through the most difficult time of my life and tried to take advantage of my vulnerability. Thank you for exposing him. Her comment was shared across multiple platforms and picked up by local news blogs. By Friday evening, Sloane Maddox was trending on social media throughout the city. Ayla called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer any of them. Saturday morning, I drove to Sloane's dealership. The parking lot was nearly empty, unusual for a weekend. Through the showroom windows, I could see sales staff standing around, looking confused and worried. I walked inside and approached the nearest salesperson, a young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Slow day?" He glanced around nervously. "Yeah, it's been unusual. Can I help you find something?" "Just browsing. Is Mr. Maddox around?" "He's out of town. But honestly, I'm not sure when he'll be back. There's been some complications." "What kind of complications?" The salesperson leaned closer and lowered his voice. "Between you and me, there's been some bad publicity, social media stuff. Corporate is asking questions." I nodded sympathetically. "That's rough. Hope things work out." As I left the dealership, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what you've started. This isn't over." I assumed it was from Sloane and replied, "You're right. It's just getting started." Sunday evening, I got a call from Valentina. "Dad, what's going on? Mom called me crying about some social media posts. She says you're trying to ruin her life." "I'm exposing the truth about the man she's been having an affair with." "The car dealer guy?" "His name is Sloane Maddox, and he's been manipulating married women for years. Your mother was just his latest target." Valentina was quiet for a moment. "Mom says you're being vindictive." "Maybe I am, but that doesn't make the information false. She wants me to come home and talk to you, try to convince you to stop." "What do you want to do?" "I want to understand what's really happening. Mom's story keeps changing every time we talk." "Then come home. See for yourself." Monday morning, Sloane returned from Chicago to find his world in chaos. The social media posts had been picked up by local news outlets. His dealership's phone was ringing constantly, with reporters asking for comments. Several of his business partners had called emergency meetings, and Ayla was waiting for him. I know this because I was watching from the coffee shop across the street when she arrived at the dealership in the silver Mercedes. She stayed inside for 2 hours. When she came out, her face was red and puffy like she'd been crying. She drove straight to my shop. "Hayes, we need to talk." "I thought we covered everything the other night." "Sloane is furious. He's talking about suing you for defamation." "Let him try. Everything I posted is documented and verifiable." "He says you don't understand who you're messing with." "Is that a threat?" Ayla looked exhausted. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her makeup was smeared, and her expensive clothes looked like she'd slept in them. "Hayes, please, just take down the posts. We can work out our divorce quietly, without destroying everyone involved." "Everyone? Or just Sloane?" "Both of us. My law firm is asking questions. They're concerned about the publicity affecting their reputation." I felt a moment of satisfaction. Ayla's carefully constructed professional image was crumbling along with her affair. That's not my problem anymore. "What about Valentina? Do you want her to see her parents destroying each other on social media?" "I want her to see what happens when people face consequences for their actions." Ayla stared at me for a long moment. "I don't recognize you anymore." "Good." The old me was too trusting. She turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not about Sloane, but about how I handled things with you." Apology noted. After she left, I sat in my office thinking about everything that had happened over the past week. A marriage destroyed, a man's reputation ruined, a woman forced to confront the reality of her choices. But I wasn't finished yet. The real confrontation was still coming. Tuesday afternoon, Sloane Maddox walked into my shop like he owned the place. He was wearing a black suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, but his usual confidence was cracked around the edges. "We need to talk," he said. I was under the hood of a Ford pickup, but I didn't bother looking up. Shop's closed for private conversations. You want to talk, make an appointment. This can't wait. I straightened up and wiped my hands on a shop rag. Nate was across the garage working on an oil change, but I could tell he was listening. All right, Sloane, let's talk. He glanced around the shop with obvious disdain. Privately. This is as private as it gets. Say what you came to say. His jaw tightened. You've caused me significant financial damage with your little social media campaign. Have I? That's unfortunate. Don't play innocent. You know exactly what you've done. I leaned against the workbench and crossed my arms. I shared factual information about your behavior. If that caused you financial damage, maybe you should reconsider your behavior. Those posts contain private information obtained illegally. Nothing illegal about walking into an unlocked office during business hours. You had no right to photograph my personal property. Your trophy collection? Yeah, that was particularly interesting. Do you have a display case for Ayla's wedding ring, or are you waiting until the divorce is final? Sloane stepped closer, trying to use his height to intimidate me. You're going to take down those posts and issue a public apology. Or what? Or you'll find out what happens when you mess with the wrong person. Nate had stopped working and was now openly watching our conversation. A few other customers in the waiting area were also paying attention. Is that a threat, Sloane? It's a promise. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Could you repeat that? I want to make sure I get it on video this time. His face flushed red. You think you're clever? I think I'm thorough. See, the thing about bullies like you is that you're only tough when you think nobody's watching, but now everybody's watching. I'm not a bully. I'm a successful businessman who's being harassed by a jealous husband. Successful? Let's see. Your dealership's been getting cancellation calls all week. 3 of your business partners have requested meetings to discuss reputation management, and your corporate backers are asking questions about your personal conduct. His confidence cracked a little more. How do you know about my business meetings? Same way I knew about Jennifer Morrison. Same way I knew about the other women. You're not as discreet as you think you are. Sloane looked around the shop, probably realizing for the first time that our conversation had an audience. This isn't over, he said. You're right, it's not. I walked to my office and returned with a manila envelope. These are copies of everything I found in your office. Photos, receipts, personal notes. I've already given copies to a reporter at Channel 7 News. You're bluffing. I showed him my phone screen, which displayed a text message from someone named Jessica Martinez. Interview scheduled for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thanks for the exclusive. Sloane's face went white. You can't do this. I already did it. The interview airs tomorrow night. I'll sue you for everything you're worth. With what money? Your dealership is hemorrhaging customers, your business partners are distancing themselves, and your reputation is destroyed. Good luck finding a lawyer who thinks you can win a defamation case when everything I've said is true. He stood there for a moment, probably trying to think of another threat or angle to work. Finally, he turned toward the door. Ayla deserves better than this, he said. Ayla deserves exactly what she's getting, just like you do. After he left, Nate walked over with a concerned expression. That guy's not going to give up easy. I'm counting on it. What do you mean? I showed him the recording I'd made of Sloane's threats. He's going to try something stupid, and when he does, I'll be ready. That evening, Ayla called. Hayes, Sloane told me about your conversation today. He's talking about doing something drastic. Define drastic. I don't know. He's angry and humiliated. He keeps saying you've ruined his life. He ruined his own life. I just documented it. He mentioned something about making you pay for what you've done. Let him try. Hayes, I'm serious. Sloane has connections. People who could make things difficult for you. Are you warning me or threatening me? I'm trying to protect you. Despite everything that's happened between us, I don't want to see you get hurt. Where's this concern coming from? Yesterday you wanted me to take down the posts and apologize. Yesterday I thought we could still salvage something from this mess. Today I realized how far things have gone. I was quiet for a moment, processing the change in her tone. Ayla, what happened between you and Sloane today? What do you mean? You were at his dealership for 2 hours yesterday. You came out looking like you'd been crying. Today you're warning me about him instead of defending him. What happened? She was quiet for so long, I thought she'd hung up. He showed me his office. And? I saw the photos, the trophy collection, the folders with other women's names. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He was proud of it, Hayes. He thought I'd be impressed by his conquests. How did that make you feel? Sick, stupid, used. Welcome to reality. I know I deserve that, but Hayes, he's not the man I thought he was. The man I thought I loved doesn't exist. No, he doesn't. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I already broke up with him. When? This afternoon, after I saw what you'd posted about Jennifer Morrison. I realized he'd been lying to me about everything. I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and pity. Ayla had finally seen Sloane for what he really was, but it had taken public humiliation to open her eyes. Where does that leave us? I don't know. Our marriage is still over, Hayes. Too much has happened for us to go back. I know. But maybe we can end this without destroying each other completely. That depends on Sloane. If he tries to retaliate, I'm going to finish what I started. What does that mean? It means I have more information than what I've already posted. Information that would end his career permanently. Hayes, Ayla, I need you to understand something. I didn't start this war, but I'm going to finish it. If Sloane comes after me, my business, or my family, I will destroy him completely. The next evening, the Channel 7 News interview aired during the 6 o'clock broadcast. Jessica Martinez had done her homework, interviewing 3 of Sloane's former victims and presenting a damning portrait of his predatory behavior. The story was picked up by other local news outlets and shared thousands of times on social media. By Thursday morning, Sloane Maddox was the most notorious man in the city. Friday afternoon, I got a call from Rebecca. Hayes, my husband just told me something you need to know. Sloane cleaned out his office yesterday and hasn't been back to the dealership since. Did he say where Sloane went? No, but he left a message with the general manager. He said he was taking an extended vacation to deal with personal matters. Sounds like he's running. Maybe. But my husband also said Sloane made some phone calls before he left. Angry phone calls to people he called business associates. What kind of business associates? The kind who don't like publicity. I thanked Rebecca and hung up, then called Nate. I need you to keep an eye on the shop for the next few days, and if anyone comes around asking questions about me, don't answer them. Hayes, what's going on? Sloane's running scared, but he's not running alone. That night, I installed security cameras around my shop and apartment. I also moved some important documents to a safe deposit box and made sure Valentina knew to stay at school until I gave her the all clear. I was preparing for war, but I had no idea how close it already was. Saturday night, I was working late in the shop when the lights went out. Not just in my building, the entire block went dark. Through the windows, I could see streetlights flickering back on one by one as the power grid reset itself. Except for my building. We stayed dark. I grabbed a flashlight from my toolbox and headed for the electrical panel. The main breaker had been switched off manually. Someone had cut the power deliberately. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Outside, now. Come alone. I looked through the front window and saw 3 figures standing in the parking lot. One of them was Sloane Maddox. The other 2 were large men I didn't recognize. I could have called the police. Should have called the police. but something about the situation made me want to handle it myself. I grabbed a tire iron from the workbench and walked outside. "Evening, Sloane. Working late?" He stepped forward, flanked by his two companions. "You've caused me a lot of trouble, Hayes." "Have I? That's unfortunate." "Unfortunate doesn't begin to cover it. My business is ruined. My reputation is destroyed. My investors are pulling out." "Sounds like you should have thought about that before you started collecting trophies from married women." One of the men beside him shifted slightly. I noticed the bulge of a weapon under his jacket. "Here's what's going to happen," Sloane said. "You're going to take down every post, every photo, every piece of information you've shared about me. You're going to issue a public apology admitting that you fabricated everything out of jealousy. And you're going to pay me compensation for the damage you've caused." "Or what?" "Or my friends here are going to help you understand why that's the smart choice." I looked at the two men flanking Sloane. They had the look of people who solved problems with violence. Professional problems. "Sloane, do you really think threatening me is going to improve your situation?" "I think you've underestimated who you're dealing with." "Have I? Let me tell you what I think. I think you're desperate. I think your business associates are the kind of people who don't like attention from law enforcement, and I think you're about to make the biggest mistake of your life. The only mistake I made was not dealing with you sooner." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It was displaying a live video feed of our conversation, streaming to multiple social media platforms. "Smile for the camera, gentlemen. You're live on the internet." Sloane's face went white. "Turn that off." "Can't do that. I anticipated you might try something like this, so I set up a failsafe. If anything goes wrong for me, this video is automatically sent to every news outlet in the city, along with a complete file detailing your business activities." "You're bluffing." "Am I? You want to find out?" The two men looked at Sloane uncertainly. They'd signed up to intimidate a mechanic, not to star in a viral video that could link them to criminal activity. "This isn't over," Sloane said. "Yes, it is." I walked back toward the shop, then turned around. "Oh, and Sloane, next time you want to cut someone's power, make sure you know where their security cameras are. The whole thing's been recorded." As I reached the door, I heard one of the men say, "This was a bad idea, boss." "Shut up," Sloane replied. "No, he's right. We're leaving." I watched through the window as the three men argued in the parking lot. Finally, Sloane's companions got in their car and drove away, leaving him standing alone under the streetlight. He stood there for a long time, probably trying to figure out his next move. Eventually, he got in his Porsche and drove away. I turned the power back on and called Nate. "It's over," I said when he answered. "What's over?" "All of it. Sloane just tried to intimidate me with some hired muscle. I've got the whole thing on video." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. But Sloane's finished. This video is going to destroy what's left of his reputation and probably land him in legal trouble." Monday morning, the video of Sloane's intimidation attempt went viral. Local news outlets picked it up, law enforcement started asking questions about his business associates, and his remaining investors pulled out completely. By Tuesday, Maddox Luxury Cars was closed permanently. Wednesday, Ayla called. "Hayes, I saw the video. Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "I can't believe he tried to threaten you like that." "Can't you? You said yourself he had connections to dangerous people." "I know, but I never thought he'd actually—" "I'm sorry. This is all my fault." "No, it's not. Sloane made his own choices, just like you did." "What happens now?" "Now we move on. You file for divorce, I rebuild my life, and we figure out how to co-parent Valentina without destroying her in the process." "Hayes?" "Yeah? For what it's worth, I'm glad you're okay." "Me too." Thursday morning, I got a call from Jessica Martinez at Channel 7. "Hayes, I wanted to let you know that Sloane Maddox left town yesterday. Apparently, he's facing some serious legal issues related to his business practices. What kind of legal issues? The FBI is investigating his financial records. Turns out some of those business associates were involved in money laundering operations. Your video gave them the evidence they needed to move forward with the investigation. So he's not coming back? Not likely. He's looking at federal charges if they catch him. I hung up and walked outside to look at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Ayla was probably sitting in a law office signing divorce papers. Sloane was running from federal investigators, and I was standing in front of my shop, breathing free air for the first time in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Valentina. "Dad, I'm coming home this weekend. We need to talk." I typed back, "Looking forward to it." Friday evening, Valentina arrived at the apartment carrying a suitcase and wearing the serious expression she'd inherited from her mother. "So," she said, sitting down on the couch, "Mom told me everything." Everything? The affair, the divorce, the social media posts, the video of that guy threatening you. I sat down across from her. "How are you handling all this?" "Honestly, I'm proud of you." "Proud? Mom cheated on you, lied to you, and tried to manipulate me against you. You could have just rolled over and let it happen. Instead, you fought back." I'm not sure if fighting back was the mature response. Maybe not, but it was the right response. That Sloane guy was a predator. You stopped him from hurting other women. And destroyed my marriage in the process. Dad, your marriage was already destroyed. Mom destroyed it when she chose another man over her family. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights twinkle in the darkness. "What happens now?" Valentina asked. "Now we figure out how to be a family with divorced parents. It won't be easy, but we'll make it work." "Will you be okay? Financially, I mean? The shop's doing well, and I won't have to pay for your mother's lifestyle anymore." "That's cold, Dad." "But true." Valentina smiled. "Yeah, it is." Saturday morning, I woke up to find a text from an unknown number. "Thank you. Jennifer Morrison." I showed it to Valentina over breakfast. "Who's Jennifer Morrison?" "One of Sloane's victims, a divorce attorney who spoke out against him." "That's nice. You helped her." "I helped myself. She just benefited from it." "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Are you going to be okay? Really?" I looked at my daughter, 17 years old, wise beyond her years, trying to take care of her father while her world fell apart around her. "Yeah, sweetheart. I'm going to be fine." And for the first time in months, I actually believed it. The divorce papers arrived the following Tuesday. I signed them without reading the details and sent them back to Ayla's lawyer. Our marriage was officially over, but somehow I felt lighter than I had in years. That evening I was closing the shop when Mrs. Chen from the coffee shop knocked on the door. "Hayes, I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "My niece was one of the women that man was pursuing. She saw your posts and realized what he was doing before it went too far." "I'm glad she's okay. You did a good thing, a brave thing." After she left, I stood in my shop surrounded by the tools and equipment I'd built my life around. Tomorrow there would be cars to fix, customers to help, bills to pay. Normal problems for a normal life. I turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked home through the city streets. Somewhere out there, Sloane Maddox was running from federal investigators. Ayla was starting her new life as a single woman, and I was exactly where I belonged. The wronged man had become the man who was finally right.